Salvete omnes. This is Acroasis XI, and it's neuter time. So let's talk about neuter. What is it? Neuter is the third and last gender option. Now remember, we've learned the other two, masculine and feminine. Neuter's the last one. And just like masculine and feminine, it doesn't necessarily mean we're talking about a literal gender of a word or an idea, but it just means that this is the ending pattern that a word is going to follow. Now, of the two declensions that we know, you're only going to see neuter nouns appear in second declension only. And again, just like a declension, a noun is a gender. It doesn't change from one to the other, okay? So that means if something is masculine, it stays masculine. It will never change. If something's neuter, it's always neuter. Similarly, declension-wise, a neuter noun is second declension. It will never ever be another declension. So remember, if something is neuter or is second declension or first declension or whatever, it stays there. They don't change back and forth. The only thing that changes is adjectives, because adjectives, of course, try to match whatever they're modifying. But anyways, we'll get into adjectives in a minute. Let's find out what is actually different about the neuter. Neuter is going to use the same endings that the masculine uses, with a few exceptions. So everything's going to be the same except in three cases: the nominative, accusative, and vocative. They're going to have different endings in singular and in plural. I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, what do you mean? A whole nother set of endings with exceptions? No, it really isn't that bad. It's not that scary, I promise. All it means is that you're going to use the same ending for the nominative, accusative, and vocative in the singular, and you'll use the same ending in the nominative, vocative, and accusative in the plural. So, really, you only have to know two different endings if you remember the rule nominative, accusative, vocative, or nav. Like Navi, kind of, if you remember Navi from Zelda, there you go. So only two additional endings, one for singular, one for plural, and that's it. It's not that scary, I promise, guys. So let's take a look at what these endings are. So in singular, you have and that will be the ending that you see in the nominative, the accusative, and the vocative. And in the plural, you have a. And a is, again, what you're going to see in the nominative, accusative, and vocative, but only in plural. So when you combine those two together as a way to maybe remember them, it's which is like that creature or thing, ugliest man ever in Witcher 3, which I won't spoil who he is later. But also, if you like Uma Thurman from Kill Bill, or of course the Fall Out Boy song, if you like to dance like Uma Thurman. There you go. So use Uma to remember that the nominative, accusative, and vocative endings will be and then a. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Donum, doni is one mere vocabulary. It's neuter, and it means a gift. So you can see I've highlighted in red the three instances on both the singular and the plural where donum doesn't follow the usual pattern. Now, even if I didn't have neuter written right next to donum, doni's dictionary entry, I could still tell it was neuter, because all neuter nouns in second declension are going to end in um. Which makes sense, of course, right? Because the nominative ending and then the genitive singular is what you always get. So the nominative ending will always follow that pattern of So you can see the nominative, accusative, and vocative are all highlighted in red, and they end in Now, of course, you're probably thinking, accusative is also in masculine. Well, they're the same technically, but it helps with the pattern if I tell you to remember all three. So notice that genitive, dative, and ablative don't change in either singular or plural. It's still the same as you have learned for second declension. Nothing's different there. And also the translation is the same. It's not like the case is going to change its function just because the endings have changed. So remember, everything's the same except for those three cases where it's going to differentiate. So what I'd like you to do is pause, take a moment, and write this down. And then I'd like you to find another neuter noun in your vocabulary for this stage, and I'd like you to go on and decline it yourself. It can be any one you want, I don't really care, but whichever one, go on and decline it out how it's supposed to be, use this as your model, and translate it. as I have done as well, okay? We'll be checking this tomorrow. Now, how is this going to affect adjectives? Adjectives have to agree, remember, in three things: gender, number, case. So now that we have neuter, you're probably wondering, well, what is the endings going to be for neuter? Well, right now, we only know first and second declension adjectives. So first, second declension adjectives are still using first or second declension. These adjectives, which are the us, a, adjectives, they are going to use the same endings that you just learned for neuter. So when a word is neuter, it's still going to end with the same endings that you just did with donum. So go on and take a look back at donum. Same endings: I, o, a, orm, is, a. Those are the adjective endings as well. So when you have a neuter word that you need to modify, right now it's going to look the same. Predicate adjectives is one of the ways that we've been seeing adjectives used in our book so far. So adjectives can function also as the predicate nominative, especially when they're used with a state of being verb, such as sum, esse, fui, futurum, to be. Remember, this is that big equal sign verb, est. So the examples that we've seen a lot of so far are similar to these ones. Romanus est vir, like the Roman is a man or the man is a Roman. Porta est antiqua, the gate is old. And meum est donum, the gift is mine. Now note that, again, Romanus is going to have the same case, number, and gender as vir. They're both nominative, they're both singular, and they're both masculine. Same thing with porta and antiqua. Porta is feminine, it's nominative, and it's singular, and so is antiqua. Meum and donum, same thing. Both nominative, both singular, both neuter. So let's take a look at another use that we're going to see a little bit more of this chapter, and that's substantive adjectives. Adjectives that are substantive, they stand in for a noun, or they substitute it, hence the name. It's substantive because they substitute. So usually the understood noun is people, men, women, things, or deeds. So when the adjective is masculine, understand that there's this understood man, men, or people tied with that adjective. When it's feminine, women or woman, and when it's neuter, things or deeds. So let's take a look at our examples. Multi sunt stulti. Many people or men, whichever, are foolish. And the same thing, we have bonus saepe laudant, they praise the good women. And of course we used women because bonus is ending in the first declension adjective ending, which is used for feminine adjectives. So, bonas, good women. Pueri mala non amant, the boys do not like or love evil things or deeds. And that's because mala here is neuter, standing in for bad things or bad deeds. In larger passages, we're actually going to see the substantive used to stand in for a previously mentioned noun. So when you have a couple of sentences together, sometimes instead of rewriting out the same noun again, you're just going to use the adjective instead. We do this in English too a lot as well. So Catullus pueros de puellis monent, omnes audiunt. So take a look at those two sentences. So we have Catullus warns the boys about girls. And then we have this word omnes. Omnes is our adjective. And here it's masculine and plural. So omnes is referring to all the boys. All the boys listen. Now, I understand it to be the boys because that was the last masculine plural thing we were talking about. And also it would make more sense for them to listen at this point since they were being warned. So that is how the substantive can work in a passage as opposed to a sentence. So that concludes this Acroasis. Don't forget to fill out your Google form and ask any questions that you need to in there as well. If you have, of course, any other trouble, please show up to Lug. We would love to see you. And until then, valete omnes.